federalism is this basic concept that there should be a division of authority between local government, state government, and federal government. And who decides the different spheres of authority is ultimately the American people. So the American people decides who on the local level gets to do what things, who on the state government level gets to do what things, and the federal government level. And we see that very clearly in the 9th and 10th Amendment, that it says all powers not given to the federal government and rights not given to the federal government are reserved to the people and to the states. So one example of this would be state boards of education or boards of education. We have a local school board, we have state level education, and now we have a national board of education as well. So that's basically what federalism is. And to understand why I think it's important, I'd like to quote from Abraham Lincoln, who said, "I trust, I understand, and truly estimate the right of self-government. My faith in the proposition that each man should do precisely as he pleases with all which is exclusively his own lies at the foundation of the sense of justice there is in me. I extend the principles to communities of men as well as to individuals. I so extend it because it is politically wise as well as naturally just. Politically wise in saving us from broils about matters which do not concern us. Here or at Washington, I would not trouble myself with the oyster laws of Virginia or the cranberry laws of Indiana." So what does he mean there? What is he touching on? So he's saying two things: that federalism is necessary and good, both because it is practical and because it furthers certain principles. So why is it practical? Well, America is quite a large place. And there are certain states that are landlocked. There are certain states that have bodies of water. They have different physical terrains. And so it's appropriate that they have different laws because it's simply not necessary for Virginia to have cranberry laws, for example, because they don't have cranberries. And the presumption in a system which has limited government is you don't pass a law unless it is necessary. So you shouldn't just have uniform laws on the books that don't apply to certain states, because bureaucracy and laws have a tendency to grow. The government almost never shrinks. It always grows bigger. And so you only pass those laws that are necessary in order to protect the freedoms of individuals and the authority of local and state governments. The other principle at play here is the principle of subsidiarity, which is this idea that the people closest to the problem are the ones that should take care of it because they're the ones that know it best. And this becomes really obvious even on the international scale, for example, when other countries will come into a community and tell that community what it is that they need, instead of listening to the members of that community who are saying, this is what we in fact need. Because you don't actually understand the problems if you're not very close to them. So that's what Lincoln's saying on the practical level. On the level of principle, federalism is a means of inculcating the habits of self-government. So there's this notion that if you can take care of a problem, you should, because that inculcates the habits of self-government. The idea is that you are self-reliant as an individual, as your family, as your community, and that inculcates virtue, it inculcates habits, and you have these talents, and so you should go out and use them. And so it's really a matter of self-reliance. And the other thing that it does for a community is when communities come together to resolve their issues, it creates goodwill between fellow citizens and between neighbors. So even if my neighbor the fellow who lives next door, doesn't agree with me politically, we can work together when it comes to repairing the road, for example. And that inculcates goodwill between us. And I then first look at him as John, my neighbor, who helped me with this project, rather than as a stranger, or even worse, as a political enemy who I disagree with. So it's really important for us to come together on these things so there's less division and there's less partisanship. And I think that's a really important lesson today in our age of social media, where we don't get to know each other first. And so we have a tendency to think of this person as our enemy because we don't know them. And once you do that and you have those day-to-day interactions, it helps builds camaraderie and it helps builds a citizenry that's all dedicated to the principles of self-government.